today, then we'll work backwards how I arrived at where I am today. I grew up on a farm. I was telling Tom, don't have a great education. Went to college at Georgetown, Kentucky. I think I applied in May of my senior year to play football. Ended up playing baseball. Just by chance, my roommate's dad worked at GE, and I got an interview at GE. And you know how you read people? You ever walk in a room and just get a sense of how people are, right? So here I was, a 2.3 student at Georgetown College. Really couldn't write. I couldn't speak very well. I was from a farm in Appalachia. And I walked in, I just feel the vibe from the guy, right? And he leans forward, he goes, "Tell me about yourself." I go, "If there's 5 seconds left in the game, I want the ball." And the guy goes, "You're freaking hired." I swear to God, it was the greatest thing in the world, man. It went like that. And so then he goes, "You want to be a buyer or you want to be a CA?" And I was like, "Huh? What's a buyer?" He goes, "Tell you what, I'll bring you, make you a buyer's assistant." And that cost me $15,000 on the spot, because I think a buyer's assistant came in around 20 grand and a buyer came in at 35. But that actually launched my career, and this guy's name was John Hooper. And John would get promoted, and every time he'd get promoted, I would fill in for him. I'd kind of be his right arm through the process. I ended up at 24, 25 years old, in charge of GE's International Procurement Organization. So when they would sell an engine overseas, it was my job to get parts built in country. And I was, in doing that, I was the first one into China, speaking of that. There's probably not an aircraft engine, parts manufacturing, power gen shop in the world I haven't been in. But I was the first one into the Czech Republic, Poland, Slovakia, Korea, and all those places. And I parlayed that knowledge into starting my own company, because as I was doing that, I could not find people in the early 1990s to sell these guys raw material, because everybody was scared to do business with those countries. And I'll tell you that story as we go along. That's kind of background of my experience of how I'm in front of you today. I took that once I left GE, and we spun into 4 different companies, which I'll share with you in a second. But that's why I'm here today. I'm the president of a $250 million steel distribution company located in Hamilton, Ohio. I started my business in 1993 with the guy by the name of Barry Bucher, who, by the way, is when you get the black coat, you're a donator at UC, and you get the black coat.
Honorary doctorate.
Whatever, but he's a big benefactor to the football program, so by chance I did well.
Does he have a son named John Bucher?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Scott Bucher's his son.
Scott.
Barry's early 70s, and they call it the honor or something, and I think he's a big donator, but that's my business partner, so I think I get a little bit of credit for that. God's the arms and legs, and he was the money behind us getting started. But I started AIM in 1993. Then when GE started buying up repair and overhaul sites across the world, they were buying up different shops. I went to GE and said, "You know what? You're buying up all these different places, and I tell you what, I want to aggregate your procurement and all the materials that you use that go into like thermal spray powders, braid salads, preforms. I'll aggregate all those materials for you. You'll have one inventory. You'll be able to aggregate that pricing level, etc., and do that." And ended up creating a company in 1997 called AIM MRO that's still alive and existing today. And I don't think GE could fire them today, because we have so much of their knowledge. But a great story about this particular company was that when I took it, I went to GE and we aggregated together, and it totaled about $3 million. And I looked at my cost structure, and I was looking, I'm going to take it. If I take it the number they want me to take it, they'll give it to me at, there's a $70,000 loss. I'm still pretty young in the business, thinking what we got to do, and I said, I'll take it. And we backward ended what we did. We took the business and we went out and found everything they had a single source for, either developed another source or we developed our own in-house solution, which actually is not up here, but I ended up starting another company that exists out in Loveland, Ohio today,
that manufactures products for vane and shroud repair on aircraft engines. And we basically took that information we got, created a manufacturing business called T&B Manufacturing. And then, and this is another great story, in 2000, I started a company called Supply Dynamics, and that's how I think you got a hold of me today, with Trevor. Basically, Honeywell and GE, just like UTC and Honeywell are trying to merge today, GE and Honeywell are going to merge in 2000. And I get a phone call from GE and says, hey, I got a meeting, we got to come up with $85 million in cost savings, I need some ideas. I said, why don't we take your spend and Honeywell spend, we'll aggregate together, and I've been thinking about the reasons why that never works in the past, and I think we can solve that. And he said, that's a great idea, let me take it, I'll take that to our meeting. Goes to the meeting, they have it, he comes back, calls me up like 3 hours later, said, they love it, they want a proposal. Saw a business plan in here. He said, I need something in writing, I need it by the end of the day. Okay. I type up, put all my thoughts on paper, write a page, and I go, $300,000 for me to consult and do it, right? Never thought anything of it. The next morning I got a PO on my desk to start. That's how excited they were to do it. So I ended up creating a company that took GE and Honeywell's spend to their subcontractors, and we aggregated that into one software package, and whenever GE would outsource components to their sub-tier base, they would lose visibility, all the parts that go into it. And what I mean by that, if you're making a part, and that part's got 6 different parts, they lost visibility into what that was. So I created software that linked with their scheduling system, allowed them to capture all the parts that outsourced. And then they could aggregate that volume, they could do cost savings with it, we could drive value out of it, etc. And that company's called Supply Dynamics, and it's still an independent run business today. So then in 2006, this is from my current company, nickel. You guys familiar with the commodity nickel? It's really used in aircraft engines. It's a big part of it. It's for heat resistant type applications and all that. In my original business, where I was supplying the material to make the parts, my partner comes to me and says, hey, nickel just hit $24. Historically, it's been $3. Our revenues were way up, our margins were way up, and boom, he goes, now's the time to sell. So we ended up spinning the business off in 2006, and by that time we had 4 different companies. We had AIM, which is the materials distribution business. We had AIM MRO, which is the repair and overhaul business, supplying powder, Supply Dynamics, then T&B Manufacturing. And we said that we would sell the materials business to, then generate the revenue out of that. As we went through the sales cycle, they got interested in Supply Dynamics, the market did. Then they got interested in me, and they said, by the way, if Tom would come in here and work for us, we'll pay you this much more, and but he has to sell out his other interests in the other businesses. So we ended up doing that. So I sold my companies in 2006. Then I went to work for the people who bought the company called O'Neill Steel, and they're based out of Birmingham, Alabama. They're a $3 billion private company. And from that point in time, I started, they pretty much let me do what I want, and I've been buying and merging and acquiring companies in their behalf. So I merged Ferguson Metals in 2008 with my particular business. I acquired a company called Plus 10, which is in the semiconductor supply of metals in the semiconductor business. I acquired Volcanium Metals, which is a titanium company that's used in aircraft engine, also used in the airframe industry, used in the medical industry. Charged Metals in the oil and gas industry. Then Aerodyne Alloys was a merger that was in the aircraft engine. There were round products in the aircraft engine and the power generation market, and we consolidated that all under United Performance Metals, and I am now today the president of United Performance Metals, and we are a part of the O'Neill family of companies in the steel industry, and these companies are all supplying metals. This particular segment supplies to the commercial, commodity, carbon, the cheap stainless type stuff. This business is all high performance, all related to really aerospace, heat resistant, corrosion resistant, expensive. You know, half the products I sell an average of $15 a pound. These guys might sell at 20 cents a pound. So it give you a different flavor of the different businesses. Just who we are today, I just don't need to go into that for the class, but locations all over the U.S., locations all over the world. I've traveled just about everywhere in the world that's making aircraft engine parts and materials. I've been in those shops and different things. I want to talk a little bit about my experiences here in a second as we go along to give you a flavor. So if any of your questions come up about doing business globally, how do you do it, how do you get started? I've opened up companies in Singapore, in the UK. I'm opening up in Hungary right now, a facility. I've opened up in China, so Taiwan and different places. So a lot of different experiences, both as an entrepreneur and also for a private company that I work for today. We buy, we're located in different places. I got operations in Ireland today, and in Hungary, China, Singapore. The metals we provide, all stainless, nickel, cobalt, titanium. These are all materials that really derived out of that my beginning in aircraft engine.
These are for outperformance metals?
Pardon?
This is for all performance metals?
High performance.
Or high?
So when I'm talking about they're really resistant to heat and corrosion, and the key ingredients are that they're nickel based, they're cobalt based, or they're titanium, which are elements that favor that type of environment.
So when you say based, how much iron is in there? Any?
Iron?
Yeah. Okay, so
Minuscule.
this isn't.
So for example, I think of this. If you take my biggest seller is this 625 alloy. It's 56% nickel, 15% moly, right?
Okay.
And a bunch of other things that
Okay.
are minuscule through it. And that's where the price drives up so much. And today, actually, you know, we've gone from nickel being $3 when I started my career all the way up to $24 when we sold. Today it's back down to $4. So you can imagine you ramp up and you ramp down. And there's a story within a story that I sold my company in November of 2006 and nickel was 24. 6 months later, nickel was 12. So you can imagine the revenues, how they cranked up when it was 24, because you're selling the same amount of units.
Mm-hmm.
Then 6 months later, I had to go back and tell the owners, hey, well, sorry, but you know, that's part of life. So we do value-added processing, just-in-time management, aggregation we talked about. I do a lot of risk management, hedging of materials, or you could hedge dollars and those type of things that allow you to go out longer. We can talk about any of these programs, scrap management, sourcing, kitting, lean. So I'll come back and you guys got questions. I got a lot of different experiences. Our procurement services, you know, selling, you know, if you're interested in starting a business in manufacturing and full bill of material supply, how to get started, all those type of things. You know, I've been involved in all those. People I do business with today, I buy from, you know, big, large mills who manufacture, you know, big parts of coil steel. If you go in my plant in Cincinnati, you'll see rows and rows of big, large coils of steel. I take that material and cut it up and process it, put it in near net shape so it can go on a guy's shop floor and go right in and get right back out the door as a finished part. My customer base are all the big OEMs. If you look at all across the world, and their subcontractor base, you'll see a lot of names up there I'm sure you're familiar with.
OEM? What is it?
Original engine manufacturer, original manufacturer, yes.
Just asking because I own a motorcycle. How do you best service Kawasaki? What's your
Kawasaki in Japan.
yeah?
Yeah, they make power turbines in our business that I'm familiar with, so I supply them metals that they manufacture. It's funny, that all the Japanese companies, they deal with trading companies. You know, there's very little that they do direct. They have these trading companies that we do business with for that product to go into Japan.
Cool.
Yeah. So I serve industries today, aerospace being our largest, power gen second, oil, gas, medical, automotive. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've done in my life, what you can do right now that will determine your future with relationships and all that. So just a flavor of my experiences, and hopefully that'll maybe drive some different questions for you and all that. As I said in the beginning, I was a country kid. I went to Georgetown College in Kentucky. You know, just by happenstance, my roommate's dad worked at GE, so I kind of fluked into a lot of where I am today. But I really wasn't a particularly good writer. I couldn't speak very well. I still can't do that, and those type of things. So if you're anyway like that, there's a lot of hope for you as you go forward. But I started working at GE, and I kind of knew going through that environment that I did not want my boss's job. And so I was looking at different opportunities and different things and had my eyes open. And how I ran into my partner was that I was at Keeneland. You guys ever been to Keeneland? Yeah. And what a great place, by the way. And we were at the horse races at Keeneland. And I get introduced through a friend to this guy in the metals business. Hey Barry, what do you do? I work for GE. I'm in the in the procurement group and in charge of. Wow, that's interesting. Go back and forth and talk. And I said, I got a great idea, right? A business idea. So we talk back and forth. The next morning at 8:30, I get a call. He's on my phone. He says, Tom, I want you to come work for me, right? And Barry had a public company at the time called ATEC Metals, and they were in the metals business, the aerospace. So I go to work for him, and we create this. He gives me my own little business unit, my own profit center, etc. And within 6 months, I had $10 million of business, and all of a sudden his board was like, "You can't be selling to Saudi Arabia. You can't. You're putting your company at risk." And he decides to take his company back private so that he could do more of what we were doing. And during that process of taking that company back private, he was outbid by another company. So he came to me and said, "Let's do this. Start over on our own. I'll put the money up." He was in his middle 50s, so he puts the money up. I was the arms and legs, and I take off traveling the world. And one thing I did really unique was when I was at GE, I developed some incredible relationships, and those relationships to this day help me, right? And I was able to go back into GE and say, hey, Mike Wagner, who's now a president of one of the GE companies at the time, was a buyer, hey, support me, right? And then I was able to take that information I learned at GE and go to Honeywell and Pratt & Whitney and say, you know what, I'm going to show you places to make parts, but instead of charging you $200,000 to do that, I'm going to charge you $100,000, but you got to buy all your raw materials from me. So I got to end up getting paid by these major OEMs to sell my own product. And all I was doing